So I think we should go ahead and get started. We have a lot of information to cover today. So good afternoon and welcome to the webinar. My name is Amanda Deering. I'm in the Department of Food Science at Purdue, and I have my partner in crime and the one who does all the organization, Terry Gary. You'll hear from her later. But really what we're going to talk about today, a lot of topics related to this new home-based vendor law. And so it'll be, we always kind of say it's direct from the horse's mouth. So these are our regulatory folks who kindly said they would come and talk about this and answer all these questions, because there's a lot of things that are the same and a lot of things that are different. Well, probably more the same, some different. We're going to hear from the Indiana Department of Health, the Board of Animal Health, the Indiana Egg Board, and then we'll talk briefly about some of the training options that Purdue Extension is offering, and we'll talk about some of the resources that we have for HBVs. But we do want to make sure that we leave plenty of time for questions. This will be recorded, and we will post this and send this to all the participants after this webinar is over. And we also ask that you wait until the end to ask questions. We'll give you opportunity, and please put your questions in the chat box. So before I turn it over to the Indiana Department of Health, Terry, is there anything else we're missing?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
All right, Vivian, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, hi everyone, this is Vivian. I'm going to try to share my screen. And let's try this one. Okay, see. Okay, for some reason, it won't let me share my full screen. Okay, anyway, we can go from there, it's no video. Okay, well, thank you so much for inviting us to come today to share about the 1149. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you fine.
Okay, awesome. So the first things that I want to share, the 1149 is very new, but yet at the same time it's been very old. A lot of content that we have in 1149 has been around since 2009. That has been applied to a lot of home-based vendors at farmers market and roadside stand for quite a few years. So in some way is had a lot of old information, but the biggest changes with 1149 is to provide local vendors have more opportunity in selling the products beyond just a farmer's market or roadside stands place. And that's involving mailing and internet and all of stuff, which we will go into a little bit more detail in a minute. So I have my partner in crime in here too. Her name is Sharon Petit, and she should be in here too. Sharon, are you here? Oh, she may be muted. Okay. So for the state of Indiana, we are here to promote, protect, and improve the health and safety of all Hoosiers. And our vision is to make sure that every Hoosier reaches optimal health, regardless of where they live, learn, work, or play. Let's see if I can make it bigger. Okay. So that for 1149, it was passed at the Indiana General Assembly in 2022. So it's relatively new. The main thing is to focus on the home-based vendors. And again, as I shared earlier, is to making sure that certain products can be sold beyond farmers market and roadside stands. So with that, nothing really changed until July 1st. So the vendors who are selling already right now, they should able to continue the business as usual. Starting July 1st, this is when the new rule happens. And we have provided a very detailed guidance to all the local health department. And in fact, we just have discussions with them. So the message that we are sending and try to work it for this year, for this season, the remaining summer season, is to ensure that we work with all the vendors in terms of education over enforcement. We understand that it's going to take some time for all the vendors and local health department to understand the in and out of the whole new rule. But at the same time, we're mainly focusing on the food safety issues right now this year, or if there's any complaint or something like that, then we'll definitely will work on it, add on it this year. But other than that, we plan to work with all the vendors. So the summary of the new statute requirement, the biggest one is actually the food handler certificate. And at the new rule in section 7, it did say all the food handler, all the home-based vendors, they have to obtain the food handler certificate from a certificate issuer that is accredited by the American National Standard Institute, which is what we call the NC. And I know that Purdue is actually working really hard on getting some face-to-face training going. But for those who will want to do a online training, ServSafe is one of the possibility. But if you go to NC on this link, if you type in food handler certificate, there's actually a lot of food handler certificate program beyond ServSafe. So take a look at it. One thing I do want to mention, most of the food handler certificate is only good for 3 years. So we do require all the home-based vendor to have a valid current food handler certificate. So please make sure that you don't have an expired one. And for those who have the ServSafe Food Protection Manager certificate, that is good for 5 years. We will take that one over the food handler certificate too. So if you already get that one done, feel free to continue to use that. When you need to renew it, and if you want to just stay in as a home-based vendors, you can switch over to the food handler certificate, which is good for 3 years. Okay. So the other changes, if you look at the new regulation, that's what I'm saying. Some of the section, they kind of totally rewrote it a little bit. It used to be section 29, and then is repealed and then moved to 1642 5.3. There's a statute definition of a roadside stand right now based on the new one. It is referring to a what is the wording? Let me look it up, the wording again. For the roadside stand, there's a specific definition is about
100 feet. Vivian, are you looking for 100 feet off the road? Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Patina. Appreciate it.
No problem.
And you have to be in a structure, so it couldn't be just like a box or something like that. So that is something that some of the home-based vendors want to look into it. And all the home-based vendors now they're allowed to sell online using shipping or delivery, but only within Indiana address. So with your product, you really, first of all, my suggestion is everyone need to figure out if the product it is a home-based vendor product or it is not a home-based vendor product. Your local health department and your extension officer should be able to go through that product, review your ingredients, processing, and all those stuff to determine if it's a home-based vendor product. If that's the case, if it's a home-based vendor products like cake and candy and uncut produce, those kind of things, then you can sell it online by shipping or delivering, but have to be within the state of Indiana. It also allowed the home-based vendor using a third-party delivery to help to deliver the products to the end user. So that is someone that is going to use your product, but not someone that's going to resell your product for you. So just making sure that that is being followed. And I know the egg board is here, and they're going to talk about, Mark is going to talk about the chicken eggs. And those vendors need to be registered and follow the guidelines of the Indiana State Egg Board. And then for the poultry and rabbits, there's some specific requirement. There's a frozen, all the product must be frozen at the point of sale or refrigerated during delivery, those kind of things. So, and I know that Sarah is going to cover that in a minute. The other big things that about this new 1149 is all the vendors, they have to have all the products that are made, grow, or raised in the primary residence. So if you go and lease a commercial kitchen or property or something to produce your product is no longer allowed. So you have to be something that produced at your home, your primary residence, or any permanent structures that within your same property. So that is something new. It have changed. And then the other one that we are really looking for from now on is require all the home-based vendor maintain the record of the shipping or the delivery address for each of the customers for up to a year in case of any outbreak or complaints or concern or something like that. That is something that we are going to be looking for. One thing I forgot to mention, for the certificate, make sure that you will provide a copy of your certificate to your state, your local health department, so they have a record of you being in the counties. So finally, just want to make a reminder, remember as a home-based vendor, we cannot sell wholesale, and all the products have to sell to your local, have to sell to the end user. Either you deliver, you sell on site from your primary residence. If you sell it at farmers market, roadside stand, any of those avenue, you have to be to the end customers, okay? And if you have any questions, all you have to do is contact your local health department and they should be able to provide some of the information to you. And I do want to remind everyone, a lot different counties, they do have the local ordinance. So making sure that when you talk to your local health department, different counties may do different things. So so just make sure that, you know, your local health department inspector is your best friend in your area. So Petit, do you have anything you want to add?
That was excellent, Vivian. Just remind everybody, local health departments really are a great resource along with your extension agent. And so when you're looking at, you know, can you do the pumpkin roll versus cream cheese frosting versus Betty Crocker, like your food inspector is your best friend and they will be willing to help you kindly. So just reach out. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vivian. Excuse me. Board of Animal Health, Sarah, we'll kick it off to you again. Write down your questions. You can put them in the chat, but we will answer those at the end. Thank you, Vivian. And Sharon. Sarah,
Yes, can everyone hear me okay?
we sure can.
Okay, well, I have two others of our team. I'm gonna have them introduce themselves that are here with me.
My name is Dr. Renee Sykowski. I'm the Deputy Director of Meat and Poultry. And I'm Dr. Carrie Sir. I'm the Director of the Meat and Poultry Inspection Department here at VOA.
So I'll just briefly talk first about the rabbits and what is in 1149 pertaining to rabbits. Pretty big. I'm going to start there because it's the easier of the two to discuss. There's essentially no changes to any current requirements as it pertains to sale of those products, slaughter and processing of those products. They are non-amenable under the state Meat and Poultry Inspection Act. So you know, we do provide voluntary inspection to meet Department of Health's requirements for sales of rabbits. But all of that is when you're looking at that, it's there on page 8 of the bill, or that states on as far as you know, refrigerated at the point of sale off the farm and being frozen at farmers market and roadside stand sales is essentially the same language, just transferred into to the new section. So as far as poultry products, that similarly is essentially staying the same as far as what is required. I do want to highlight one minor difference with regard to what is in federal law and then the state Meat and Inspection Act that we enforce, and then what's in the Department of Health law. Essentially, from a federal standpoint, as it relates to exempt poultry and distribution, there's really no limits as far as long as it doesn't move in interstate commerce. So Then if you look at Board of Animal Health law, there is a further restriction on distribution of exempt poultry. Our law states that it must be distributed directly to a household consumer who cannot resell it. So then that distributed directly to a household consumer is defined to sales at the farm, farmer's market, roadside stand, or through delivery to the consumer. So the difference is, as you look at this law, it says through delivery by the producer to the end consumer. So what that means, we, under our statute, would not prohibit a third-party carrier. Our focus is that is going directly to a household consumer, regardless of the means of how it's getting there. So that is one, by adding those three words, that is an area where the Department of Health statute is more restrictive than the Board of Animal Health statute. So I just wanted to flag that difference. That's something that we would not be able to enforce. As far as just generally, we're certainly happy to provide you with some very helpful documents. We have a one-pager on sales of farmers markets and roadside stands, sales of poultry and rabbits. It's saying exactly the same because nothing has changed essentially. So we are happy to share that with this group. We also have a very helpful one-pager that has the different categories of poultry exemptions. Because if you're under the 1,000 birds a year, you're not permitted by our agency. There are labeling and record-keeping requirements. But if you're slaughtering and processing 1,000 to 20,000, then you have to have a limited permit household consumer, which you do have a permit. You have periodic inspection. There are, labeling and similar record-keeping requirements. And then we have a third category of exempt poultry, which is our limited permit retail, hotels, restaurants, and institutions. So that's if you're doing processing one bird to up to 20,000 birds, and you want to sell beyond just to the household consumer. So anything that we can do to provide you with some materials to, helpful references, we're happy to do that. But I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to share, but happy to answer any questions.
There is one. Can you clarify what third-party delivery would include?
Well, I'm going to kick that back to the Department of Health because that's not under our law. So I don't know. I think the guidance, does it address that, Vivian, about what is third-party carrier in your, I remember seeing that in your guidance.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Sir. I really appreciate you. So for the third party, so that is anyone that is going to be hired or paid by either the buyer or seller to deliver the product for you. And that is a third party carrier. Now, that is not someone that's one of the staff member of the vendors that doing driving delivery. That does not count.
Okay.
So I guess we have another question. Well, where will these information documents be posted that you mentioned? I'm not able to share it on this Zoom link. Where would you like me to send those documents that kind of can further describe what Sarah was discussing?
So we have and I'll talk about this more at the end, but on our food science webpage, we have an HBV specific space, and that's where we'll put any of these resources that the different agencies want to share. That's where we'll put all of them. So it'll be sort of a one-stop shop. All right. Yes, and yes, we will put that link in the chat for sure. All right, so up next, I believe we have the egg board. Is that correct? Yes. So Mark Straw with the Indiana Egg Board.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Well, we're pulling up slides here. I'm Mark Straw. I'm with the Indiana State Egg Board. I'm the administrator of the Egg Board. And I'm going to be pretty brief because similar to the Board of Animal Health folks talking about the poultry, really nothing changed for the eggs. But what I would like to point out on eggs, and it's been a something that's been confusing to people in the past. So I just wanted to kind of restate it, is that you are basically what the HEA 1149 did was reiterate what was in 529. And it says that if you are an individual vendor or a farmer's market or roadside stand, that you can be exempt from the requirements to have a retail food establishment permit for selling eggs. That does require that you're registered with the state egg board and that you follow the labeling and refrigeration requirements. And that's basically what it takes to be able to use that exemption. Now, the kicker is, okay, what's in the law? So what you really need to know is that Indiana Code 164211 and our administrative code applies only to eggs from the domestic chicken. So that if you have another species of avian that you're wanting to sell eggs on, the exemption from the retail food establishment permit would not apply. So just so that you're aware of that. Also, our regulations do allow the reuse of packaging material, but it is only allowed at retail sales at farm markets and roadside stands. So there's the only place that you can reuse egg cartons. Otherwise, they do have to be new. And I wanted to throw this out, since this is probably a group that's really interested in looking at new market opportunities and trying to use e-commerce. Licensing is required for e-commerce sales of when chicken eggs are delivered to the home end consumer. They have to be labeled according to the requirements. They have to be refrigerated. They have to be in new packaging. And one of the big things is be aware of state lines. Indiana laws do not cross state lines. So especially those people who might be selling through an online market I'll just pick a city, maybe Evansville. It's very possible that products are being distributed across state lines. So you need to be careful about that, because you have to follow the requirements of the laws that the state that the product is being sent to. Licensing is not required for online advertising. So if you advertise eggs for sale and the consumer picks up chicken eggs at your premise, where the eggs are produced, then you're actually exempt from licensing, and we wouldn't require that retail license. More information, there's our stateeggboard.com is our website. I have my emails there, phone number. Sometimes it's easier to talk about it and figure out exactly what you're doing to help you. And we'd be happy to do that. So like I said, Amanda, we're going to get through it quick.
No, thank you, Mark. That was very good. I think we got tons of questions coming in. So I'm just going to talk briefly. Purdue's the last one to go. I'm just going to talk briefly about the trainings that we'll have available. So as Vivian said, Purdue Extension will be offering the ServSafe Food Handlers training, and that would fulfill one of the requirements. We are doing the in-person version, and like she mentions, there's tons of online options out there. So if online is what you prefer, that's great. All of our options will be face-to-face, though. So these will be in-person trainings. They'll be $40. It's our normal ServSafe educators who are doing those trainings. So they're very experienced in this. They've offered it for many years, and they'll be throughout the state. So just check your local or your county extension office is a great resource. Or Terry, if you want to talk about this, I think is a good time to just bring up that webpage and kind of talk about where they could look for to find if they want to take a training, one of our trainings in person, or that HBB website.
Sure. So everybody, can you see my screen, my webpage that I have up here?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the webpage that you likely visited to register for this webinar. And you can find this also by going just to the food science page, because it runs through the food science department through Purdue. And then you go up to this extension and outreach tab, and then go to home-based vendors HBB. So this is where we will continue to upload resources as they become available. Keep in mind, this is still a very new regulation, so there's probably going to be additional guidance in some of the guidance documents that some of the regulators have already mentioned will be uploaded here. So if you scroll down here, this is where you probably clicked to register for the webinar. So I will post the link to this recording on this page as well. When you continue to scroll down, you will see these frequently asked questions. Who is a home-based vendor? What products can you sell? And what are the labeling requirements? And if you continue to go down here, it talks a little bit about the training that Amanda mentioned. So there's a link here that takes you to the Purdue ServSafe website. So you can go there. Also, if you just go to purdue.edu/ServSafe, click on training, it'll take you here too. So there are multiple ways to get to this webpage. And this is where our educators will upload their training dates that they have scheduled. So you can register for an in-person food handler training on this page. You just find the session that is best for you. Now, I do want to bring your attention to something. This is also where we have to post our other ServSafe trainings that we offer, which are ServSafe Manager. We've been offering that for years and years. So that kind of predates all of these new requirements. So pay attention to the type of class that you select. If you're a home-based vendor, you probably just need the food handler training. It's a lot shorter than the food protection manager class, and it's cheaper. So you'll want to take the food handler class. So just pay attention. That's what you're looking for when you click on that. And all of that is detailed at the top of this page as well. So yeah, if you have questions, this is a good place to start. But we can also answer a lot of your questions, especially related to training and education. All right.
Yes, thank you, Terry. So I guess, Terry, do you want to be the question moderator? And I will try. The only questions that Purdue will answer is the ones related to trainings. If you have specific ServSafe trainings, we have a Tina Razan on the call that she'd be able to answer specific questions about the ServSafe food handlers trainings. But other than that, let's kick it off and try to get some of these questions answered.
Okay, and I'm just going to go down the list. We're going to do the best we can to get to all of these. We know there's a lot of questions out there. So the first question on here, do all employees need to be certified?
Okay, so this is Fabienne. So based on the regulation is each individual home-based vendors need to have the food handler certificate. So it really depends on what does your employer do. If your employer is not the ones going to making the food and all those stuff, then no. But the main person should have the food handler certificate for sure.
Okay. Next question, is produce considered a home-based vendor product?
That is a very good question. So as some of you probably already heard about the produce safety rule, which is a federal regulations. So we are having some internal discussions about the produce. Uncut produce is a home-based vendor products for sure. We are not quite sure how to classify produce growers as a home-based vendor yet. So that's something we're still in discussions about it. But if you are a produce growers, you are encouraged to register with the Indiana Department of Health for your farm. So we know that you are growing produce in the state of Indiana.
Okay. And I'm going to skip the next question because I think that was very closely related and answered. Do all sales need to be recorded for 1 year or just those that are shipped?
According to the 1149, just the product that been shipped or been mailed to the end user, and that's for 1 year. It can be electronic or it can be in paper forms.
Were there any changes made to allow home-based vendors to participate at other types of markets, such as festivals?
Petite, I will let you take this one.
Can you hear me? Yeah, yes. They can be sold anywhere to the direct consumer. So as long as it's made in your primary residence, it can leave your primary residence, or it can be sold by the third party vendor.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have a question. Can you share the presentation? So we will definitely share the recording. I don't know if we'll be able to obtain all the presentations in writing, but we'll definitely post the recording, and we'll post everything we can on that home-based vendor page. Can you clarify the removal of the property leased by an individual statement? If a vendor does not have a space in their home to make the product, can they no longer sell at all if they are utilizing a leased space?
Petite.
The new law does clarify that it has to be on the primary residence. So it can be in a building outside the primary residence, but it has to be on your property. So a barn, a shed, a space that you've made somewhere on your property. At least that's my understanding.
And I'm wondering, is Christina, are you here? Christina from the Farmers Market Cooperations? Okay, she's not here.
Okay, anything else to add? Or are you guys good on that one?
So my understanding, if someone's going to produce a product on a leased property, like a commercial kitchen or something like that, there was this discussions about they will be see as a retail food establishment. So they will not be a home-based vendors.
Okay, if you produce some of the items in a commercial kitchen, what laws govern the sale of those items?
That will be fall under the retail food establishments.
Yep, you had just said that, so sorry about that.
That's okay.
Will our home-based kitchens be inspected by the Department of Health?
Okay, so but to say no. So it's a yes and no question. So it's actually there's no easy one. So the whole regulations, as always, is to allow the home-based vendors to sell the home-based good that was make, produce, and grow in the house, in the primary residence. So the idea is whoever follow the whole regulations, they are not subject for regular inspections. However, if we have received any complaint, any concern about non-compliance, or have any food safety issues, or if there's an outbreak, yes, we will be visiting your production site to make sure that the product is not the implicated product, or any issues need to be addressed.
With that being said, though, you can't expect your local health department to stop by, like if they're at the farmer's market or something, and see you, not at your primary residence, I promise you, unless there's a complaint or such. But like if you are selling, we do expect our local health departments to review your products just to make sure that they meet compliance, and then they'll move on. They're not going to regulate you. They just have to do due diligence to make sure that your product meets 1149 and the past documentation for the home-based vendors.
And for that, I want to remind everyone, if you plan to sell it online or delivery or anything like that, the label on your product have to be available on your web page or online marketing, like Twitter, Facebook, or something like that. So make it easier for people to look at in case any concern about allergens or certain ingredients or something like that. So that is required.
Okay. Are there other resources outside of the local health department that are available? And I'm assuming this person is referring to if they have regulatory questions.
Yes, if you have, if you encounter difficulties or some, usually the local health department are really good at reaching to the state health department for support. But if you have a hard time with it, we do have a email. It's called, Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, it's food@isdh.in.gov. I can type it here. It's food@isdh.in.gov, and you should be able to submit questions to us too.
And I will just add here that Purdue Extension is a resource, but it all comes back to the local health department. So, we can help, but if the local health department says, no, they don't allow this certain product, that is what it is. We're a resource, but we're not the regulatory component. So just keep that in mind. So we have a question, and we talk to these guys a lot. So if you do have a question, you can ask us and we can ask them and find the answer for you.
Okay, I think the next several questions were answered in real time. So I'm going to skip down a little bit here. So this question is for the Board of Animal Health. Where would quail fall under the poultry exemption? There have been a lot of questions in regards to quail.
Hi, this is Dr. Sir from the Board of Animal Health. Quail actually do not fall under the poultry exemptions. The poultry exemptions, we follow the USDA regulations, and their definition for poultry for the exemptions includes chickens, ducks, turkeys, geese, guinea, ratites, and squab, which is an immature pigeon. Quail and any other birds would need to be inspected in order to be sold at farmers markets and roadside stands. They are not amenable, which means their inspection is not provided for free. So, if you look on our website, on the Board of Animal Health website, the Department of Animal Health has a different definition. Under meat and poultry inspection, we have to follow the USDA definition, which does not include quail. And so the exemptions do not include quail at all.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, skipping down a little bit more. Can an individual sell duck or turkey eggs at a farmer's market? What permitting would be required? So this one's for you, Mark.
Oh, actually, I think we need to tag team this one
Okay.
with Sharon and Vivian. So, because I'll give you my interpretation. The sale of duck eggs and turkey eggs at a farmer's market would not be excluded, but they are potentially hazardous food items. Therefore, the permitting would be different, in my opinion. Sharon or Vivian?
So what we tell the local health department would be telling you is come in, all those other eggs would be need a permit by the local health department. And we just recommend that they highly follow Mark Straw guidance for the egg board. So for food safety reasons, everything that applies to the domestic chicken egg applies to the eggs. However, any other eggs besides chicken eggs do need a permit from the local health department. Just go see them. Different counties handle that different, and the permits are all different due to a home rule. Vivian?
No, I think Petit, you said it well.
So that would go for quail eggs and turkey eggs as, that like all of that's in the same category, correct?
Terry, let me qualify that. Sharon, you nod if I'm, or tell me no if I'm crazy. That is eggs that are for consumption as eggs. If you want to get into the world of selling hatching eggs or things like that, then you're talking about Department of Natural Resources. And so these are only eggs that you're going to eat.
Or decorate. I'm okay if you decorate them too. You don't need a permit to decorate the eggs, but if you want to eat them, go see the local health department. Good job, Mark. That was a good catch.
Thanks, everybody. Okay. Let's see here. Someone said they already have labels made for their product that state that their kitchen is not inspected, but now the new requirement also requires that the label says not for resale. Could we post this somewhere else in our booth as long as it's visible?
That'd be up to your local health department. If you follow the original guidance on name, address, for the you could either like put a separate stick on there that's not for resale, but ask the local health department before you just placard it, because it really does depend on the farmers market master, the local health department, and the community in general. So not so much up to the state, but once again to your local community and what fits in well with your local health department. But that's a good question.
Okay. The next question here, so this is related to dehydrated products. On the list of approved HBV items, it lists dehydrated fruits and veggies. I've heard that these items are no longer allowed to be sold at farmers markets. Is this new? Additionally, does this include freeze-dried? And what are the packaging requirements for these items? So lots of questions in there related to dehydrated.
Do you want to take a crack of it?
Oh my goodness. So the rule stands as it is. What we have done is, as we've been challenged over time, we've had to look into different new science and technology. In Indiana, we've been a little bit behind times, and freeze drying with not using the traditional cookie sheet, the chest freezer, is something new to Indiana. And so we're just now researching different methods and different machinery that's being used to do that. So I do have to say this has been a new challenge for us. In the past, we have said yes to high acid fruits to be dehydrated. However, it depends on the machine sometimes. If that is a step of it, the product while it's dehydrating. So that's why we were like, you may need to look at your product before we just like a mass statement out. Well, I've been telling everybody your gummy worms and the M&Ms, go for it. But it sort of depends on the fruit. Like to say all fruits, I wouldn't go that far, but I would highly recommend reaching out to Purdue Extension and the labs at Purdue, because they can do that testing for you. When it comes to us, we're regulators, not food scientists in that. So, and when it comes to the packaging, once you put that in a vacuum sealed bag, one of the Mylar bags with a scavenger, pretty much you've reduced the oxygen for purposes. And so that's stuff that we usually put under retail for regulatory purposes to look into the science. So usually that is going to be denied and kicked back to retail. And most of your local health departments will challenge the Mylar bags, the scavengers. If you're going to do any of the dehydration or freeze drying, do check with your local health departments and just know that they're not trying to give you a hard time. There's science behind all that. And we tend to look at things like regulators and need to reach out sometimes to Purdue or other experts to get those opinions. So I hope that helps a little bit. You may not be getting consistent answers, and that's just because it's a new challenge to us in Indiana. Thank you.
Yeah,
Vivian?
Yeah, I just want to add on that one too. Actually, based on the 1149 that have there was nothing pointing to dehydrated products. The food home-based vendor product is mainly based on if it's a potentially hazardous food or not. So there's not a list of products say dehydrated fruit and vegetables are acceptable, not in 1149. Now there's some examples out there, but as Petit say, it really depends on the process, what is the product, and all those stuff. And that is something we highly encourage anyone who want to do freeze dries or any questions about this new technology and newer to is not new to commercial, it's newer to residential home-based product. I encourage you to reach out to Dr. Amanda Deering. She has a whole crew of people, doing a lot of studies and able to do the shelf stable study with you guys too. So please use that as your resources.
Okay, thank you both. Next question, this looks like a Mark question. Do egg sellers, vendors, need to go through that Serve Safe training?
Short answer, no. You're not considered to be a home-based vendor because you're selling a potentially hazardous food item. So you cannot be qualified as an HPV. And as doing such, Vivian told me that that does not require you to take the training.
Okay. And then as a part of the same question, but I think this is good for all vendors, do you have to take the training based in the county that you sell in?
Are we talking about food handler certificate training?
Yep, I think so.
I don't think that's a requirement. You can take it online. Whatever is convenience for you that is offered by Purdue and any other educational institute that I'm sure there's going to be some private vendors coming out going to be offering the training too. So whatever will give you the NC certificate, that's all we can. But just make sure you have a copy, is valid, is not expired, and is available to your local health department.
Yep, and I can also add that not every county in Indiana will probably have an educator that's offering it. So it might not be offered in your county, but if it is, it's great to attend that if you can, and just to get to know that educator in your county too, because they can be a good resource. Okay. Who do I need to reach out to in order to discuss requirements for items such as pickles, sauerkraut, salsas, in regards to how they can be sold as HBV items and required packaging?
I'll take a shot at this one. So if you want to do that, we do have a guidance document from 2018 that goes into potentially hazardous food products and how they can be done. We were challenged on what is potentially hazardous back in 2018. So with that being said, we can't just recommend Purdue. You can send your food to any lab. However, Purdue does have a really great, there's a 3-page document they produce where it explains how the testing, what testing. On the last page, it traditionally has stated whether it's potentially hazardous or whether you're going to be a retail food or if it can be sold. Traditionally, most our low-act foods are a no-no, no matter what. Some things could be done unpackaged. For example, sauerkraut, kimchi, it just be sealed with a lid. But I think for those products, your best bet and how to grow your business even better is to reach Purdue and take advantage of the offers that have testing.
Yeah, and Sharon,
once you can use any private lab, they've just got a great deal.
Sharon, just to add, right, there's no acidification, but they can ferment foods through the natural process to reduce that pH, and that's certainly something we could test the pH to make sure it's at a safe level. Is that correct?
Yes, and if they are doing one of those products at the farmer's market or somewhere there, just make sure you do have a calibrated acidity meter. Show that to your local health department that you are in compliance, and so that will be requested too. But once again, if it's something that's going to be like fermented traditional pickling, it's not going to be sealed in a container. Typically, that may be okay. Run that through your local health departments. There's 92 of them, so we want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Okay.
Amanda, don't you have some classes coming up too to help people to learn how to make those specialty products?
We are, so we're in the works to be offering, and it's kind of expanding our master home food preservation course. So taking the dehydration or the fermentation parts of that. And we're going to put a series of workshops together. So we're in the works. That should be coming up within by the end of the summer. Hopefully we can get it into this season yet, but yes, we will have a series of workshops on that. Thanks, Vivian.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Next question. Is there a deadline to obtain training or that food handler certificate?
I will take a stab on this one. So the law start 11/49. Effective date is July 1st. That's the start day. So right now we have been working with the local health department to work with all the home-based vendors. So we understand it's going to take some time. Depends on where you locate, the size of the products that you make. Especially right now, it's in the middle of the summer season, so everyone's busy. So talk to your local health department, work with them, give them some idea when you can get it done or something like that. If there's concern, they will be reaching out to us. So work with your local health department first.
Okay. What happens if a company resells your product behind your back? Recently, this happened with selling eggs to a meat market and had to stop selling eggs currently.
All right. First, Amanda, probably the best thing to do is for you to give us a call so we can understand all the specifics behind it to really know what's going on. But anybody that's reselling eggs that you sell to should be a wholesaler, and we need to make sure that they're doing things properly. And if they're using those eggs in making or preparing food items, especially in a retail food establishment, I'm sure the Department of Health would probably like to know to be sure that those eggs are coming from an approved source. So I think the best thing to do is probably give us a call and we can talk through it and figure out the specifics.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, the address requirement, does it only apply to shipping? Roadside stands, farmers markets would be extensive to try and obtain addresses.
So it's the address of your primary residence, not the roadside stand or anything else. Where you're making that product is where that needs to be.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon.
No problem.
Sherry, was that question related to whoever asked it, the address on the packaging or the maintaining the list of the vendors or people who buy from you?
That's a good question.
And what's required to keep for that?
Yeah, JA, you can unmute yourself if you want to add some clarification there.
Yeah, basically, if the way I read it, it says that you have to maintain a name and address of anybody you sell something to if you're at a roadside stand. And that's the other question. Are you still allowed to sell at a roadside stand? It's not very clear.
Can you repeat this? Okay, so I'm looking at the.
So if you're selling at a roadside stand, I mean, somebody's not wanting to give you, if they're paying cash, you wouldn't be obtaining their name and address.
Correct. So the law,
It's not written that way.
yeah, sorry. The rule actually say a home-based vendor shall do the following, and number 2 is, that's in section 6, is maintain a record of the shipping or delivery address of each end customers the vendor sells a product to for at least 1 year after the date of the sale. And that is for shipping or delivery. Did I answer your questions?
So you're saying
Okay.
when I deliver something, when I give somebody something, that's not delivery? When they buy it at a roadside stand? Okay.
Yeah, so if you have to take it to someone, and drop it
Only
off at your end
shipping
user.
or delivering it somewhere. Or, yes, okay. But if we're selling it face to face, that's not considered delivery. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so if you're at the farmer's market just selling things, yeah, that's impossible to keep track.
I think the challenge here, Jay, is the definition of delivery and the interpretation of what delivery means. And you know, what Vivian's saying is if it's those products that you're shipping to somebody and you're delivering directly to them, not who's picking stuff up at the roadside stand. Is that correct, Vivian?
And it looks like a lot of the roadside stand info was up at the top and then it got deleted. And there's still definition in there, but it doesn't say you can still sell a roadside stand.
You can, a roadside stand is acceptable. They just went to a further definition on how many feet it could be off the road. Does that help?
Sort of, but like, so the Wanamaker Festival this weekend is on the road. You know, they shut the road down, but I mean, it's still quote on the road.
Well, you're allowed to sell at fairs and festivals now, as long as the event organizer is okay with it.
Okay, and I know these are, I'm just doing honey and I don't do anything to the honey. So it makes it a lot more complicated for that. I've already done the online, I was ServSafe manager certified a long time ago, but of course I don't do that now. So I did do the online course and it's quick to do. So, I mean, I understand that, but there's really not much involved with honey.
Yeah, and that's some things that I will highly encourage you reach out, like if something happened, like your roads being closed or something, if you have concern, be proactive, reach out to your local health department, talk to them and let them know, you know, again, you know, the whole concept of the home-based vendors is to support local business, to allow local vendors to expand and then develop a good local food movement. So if there's any questions come up, talk to your local health department, and you know, they are very nice. They can talk to you. I guess, you know, it's just something you don't want to have a complaint against you, and then they have to come out and do an investigation. So if you let them know ahead of time, it's a lot easier.
Okay, we only have time for a couple more questions, and I apologize that we're not going to get to everybody's today. I know there are a lot of questions out there. A question here, I assume that home-based vendors can still not sell in retail establishments, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Can a home-based vendor go to a produce auction and bring something back to their home to sell?
That actually, as I said earlier, if someone do that, they're reselling a product, and that's something we're in discussions right now. I understand it's pretty common practice for some of the growers to go out and buy other people's products so they can fill in when the product is kind of not quite ready for sale. So that is something we'll be providing more information down the road.
Okay. Last question. So as long as your product is made on your property, it can be sold in a space that you lease, such as a storefront.
So we talked to Christine earlier from, I can't think which group Christine's from, but she had said, no, that was not the intent of the law for that to be done. And a lot of times that would be seen as a food establishment. And so it really needs to happen, like not in something that could be considered a store.
Okay, thank you guys. Okay, so unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for today. I know there are a lot of questions that we weren't able to answer today. So a little bit of a summary, if you have questions specific to what products you are allowed to sell and where you can sell, we recommend that you reach out to your county health department. They're going to be your best resource for that. If you have questions about eggs, reach out to Indiana Egg Board. If any of the presenters want to post their contact information in the chat box, that would be great. If you have questions related to meat or poultry sales, that would be directed to the Board of Animal Health. And if you have questions about the training that is available, just ANSI certified training or training through Purdue Extension, we recommend that you reach out to your county Purdue Extension office. Or you can also reach out to Amanda or myself, and we can try to help you as well. Okay. Thank you all for your time. I will post this recording on YouTube as soon as I can. Sometimes it takes a while to download, so please be patient. And then I will email that out to everyone that registered. So thank you so much for joining us today, and good luck with the rest of the farmers market season. Thanks.